And a very good Saturday morning to you. 9:49 the time now. This is our last segment for this week's show anyway. And I felt that it paired very nicely with Sunset Magazine. We had on earlier in the show discussing the top 10 cocktail trends for summer 2012. One of those trends was to use, like a farm to glass sort of technique where you grow all your own herbs and use those as the accoutrements to your cocktails. So to talk about that, because we love organic here on Eat, Drink, Explore Radio, we bring in Organic Gardening Magazine's Katie Walker. Welcome to the program, Katie.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
So you have an article that you helped work on called Garden Party, right?
Yes.
And it's all about growing the perfect garden for just such this thing. When you entertain, you walk out into your garden, you pick a few things and bring it into the kitchen so you can make some good cocktails.
Yeah, it's the best, and it's so much fun when you have people over to show them around the cocktail garden. It really inspires creativity with cocktails when you're having a party. And it just makes, for a fun little title for the garden out in the back.
Right, exactly. So some people are limited with space and they may not have room to grow a ton of different herbs. If you had to pick one herb that is like a must-have for today's modern cocktails, what would you suggest people grow?
Well, absolutely, I would say mint. I think mint is the number one most versatile cocktail herb. I have limited space in my backyard. I actually grow all of my cocktail herbs in containers. And mint that is your baby. That is the one you need to take care of. That is going to serve you the best when you're making cocktails.
And mint you may want to grow in a confined space anyway because it has a tendency to spread. Yeah,
mint is worse than poison ivy or kudzu in the South. I mean, mint is everyone's best friend, but also you have to be careful. A great way to plant it in your backyard if you don't want to, because it is a big plant, so some people don't want to use a container. What we like to suggest is you actually cut the bottom out of a container and kind of stick it in the ground, and then you plant your mint inside of that.
Okay.
And that keeps the roots from spreading out into the garden and taking over, because it'll take over your yard.
Yeah.
It'll take over the garden. It'll just go everywhere.
And so that contains the root system so it doesn't pop up somewhere else.
Exactly.
In your garden. And so mint, once it starts growing and becoming somewhat of a bush, do you just pick the leaves off, or is there, I know with basil plants, you cut it really low near the stem and you basically ravage the basil plant and it all comes back again beautifully. Does mint work the same way?
Mint will do the same thing. Mint, you can it is a lot like basil actually, and you can take a few leaves off if you're just making your own little mojito for the night. But if you have a lot of people coming over, feel free to just cut away at the mint. It is strong. It'll grow back. And, for a good mint julep or a drink like that, you need a lot of mint.
Yeah.
So just chop away at it for sure.
There are different varieties of mint. Do you have one in particular that works best with cocktails?
I personally really like spearmint. Mm-hmm. But I think it really depends on everyone's preference, and also which kind of cocktail you're making with it. Different mints go better with different cocktails, and then there are fun ones like chocolate mint. Oh. It's just fun to say that you're growing chocolate mint and you're making a chocolate mint drink. So right. You've got lots of options.
And mint pairs well with many things. Melons, here in the article you have melons, berries, peaches, even ginger.
Yeah, anything you want. Mint it's like salt or sugar. It just helps add to any kind of flavor that you're putting in your drink.
Now, because it's Organic Gardening Magazine, what's the organic trick for growing mint?
The organic trick for growing mint is probably my favorite. It's just don't do anything to it.
Ah.
Just let it be, keep it watered, harvest it. That helps keep it healthy.
Right.
And it'll be fine. There aren't a lot of pests for mint. It's not something you need to worry about.
Good.
Just plant it and water it, and you're good to go.
And if you've got some good compost that you've been building, that makes the perfect soil. Okay.
Absolutely.
Now let's talk about basil. Would that be the number 2 on your list?
Basil is right up there, and basil is fun because it's a little bit more unexpected. in cocktails, people kind of expect mint, and basil is just such a fun flavor to have.
You're starting to find it on a lot of menus here in California anyway, married with strawberry in drinks.
Yes, I made a mint strawberry punch the other day, and they work so well together because they're neither are too sweet and neither have a terribly strong flavor. Mm-hmm. So they just pair really, really nicely.
Did you mean basil strawberry?
I'm sorry.
No,
yeah.
That's okay. I just wanted to make sure. Right.
Thank you.
And
we were so wrapped up in the mint. I just had a hard time.
No, I understand. I do it all the time. I listen to the show back sometimes, and I think, I said that? I don't remember saying that, but apparently I did. Now, there's a form of basil, and I've grown this before, that I think goes really well in drinks, and that is like a lemon basil.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Lemon basil is great, and also a variety that people are calling Japanese basil.
Okay.
Or shiso is another great version, and it's almost a little bit like mint, and it has kind of a peppery flavor, but it's a really, really fun form of kind of another, like a twin to basil.
I need to look at, the little post that you stick in next to the plant that tells you what you planted because you can never remember.
Yeah.
I need to find out what basil I planted because it's growing out of control, but you bring it into the house and it puts off such a strong perfume. It's almost overwhelming. It's great.
It has that great scent.
Yeah. Now, we have a huge rosemary bush that it's taken over a whole third of the garden because in California, rosemary can be grown in the yard as just a regular plant.
Oh, that's the best.
And we have a giant bush. What would you use rosemary with?
Rosemary is really, really great to pair with all sorts of berries. Mm-hmm. It's a lot, any kind of fresh fruit does really, really well with rosemary. And I like it with clear liquors, so vodka, gin, maybe even some champagne or wine.
Right.
Rosemary goes really nicely because, again, it's not strong, and so it adds just a really simple but very herby flavor, which is great.
It's such an easy, distinct scent to pick out when you smell rosemary. Now, the consistency of rosemary is not that leafy that you get with the basil and the mint that can blend nicely into a drink. So with rosemary, would you infuse it ahead of time? How do you add rosemary to a drink?
There's two really great ways. I would say either you infuse it into like a simple syrup, which works really, really well, or what I love to do, and which looks so pretty but is so easy, is you cut your little rosemary spears, spear some of the fruit that you're putting in the drink, and use that as kind of a decoration for your cocktail, or even as the little cocktail stirrer. And it looks so fun, but it adds the flavor really nicely.
Right, and also scent is such a large portion of what you're tasting. It can add it that way.
Exactly. Have it right up in their noses when they're drinking the drink, and they'll love it.
Lavender, we have that in the yard to attract bees for some of our vegetables. I didn't think about using it in a drink.
Yeah, lavender, you just said it exactly. Because the bees love it, if you've got bees that are using lavender in their honey, if you have a cocktail that has honey in it, the lavender is going to taste phenomenal with that.
Because I'm such a huge sparkling wine fan, I love that you say to garnish a champagne flute with it.
Yeah, it's just, how pretty is that? To have that really bright color with the champagne is just, it's beautiful.
Now, cilantro, I've had it in a Mexican mojito. What else could you use cilantro for?
Well, cilantro is great kind of in the morning with your Bloody Mary. Anything that you put salt in, like a drink that is really kind of more on the salty side, cilantro is going to be great. And what I love to do is when you pair it with a margarita, if you are also putting the cilantro in the food, anytime you can combine the same herb in what you're eating with what you're drinking, it makes the whole meal come together really nicely.
Use the herb as a tie-in for your dishes and your cocktails. I love it.
Exactly.
What a great idea. Well, Katie Walker with Organic Gardening Magazine, all great tips. I'm going to have people use the link that we've provided online for a couple of the others we didn't get to, the lemon, verbena, and the dill. Also, you have tips on muddling and such. All great information. Katie, thank you for being our guest on the show today. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me on. It was great.
And this hour was brought to you by Eberly Winery, where you will always find complimentary wine tasting located on Highway 46 East in Paso Robles. Head on to eberlywinery.com. That's EBERLE.com. Thank you to Patty Pyburn, Curtis Cole, Nicole Powers, Ricardo Teodosio, Anthony Renaro, and Cora Adama. Make it a great day, everyone. We'll see you next week.